Hyperbaric chambers, hyperbolic, cryogenic. Let's go back centuries. You don't know who's preserved where in some cases, or who might be pulled out. Isn't that kind of odd? Just one of those odd little strange things. Thinking historically in a fashion, some might detest some parts of this century as well as last, even thinking among previous eras and the thought processes of differing eras in fashions, through books and literature and television, among things, thinking how somebody might think and why in a fashion. Even if things get better, they sometimes get worse in ways. In some cases, more bland, more colorless, more, in fashion, more violent in some cases too. So many people stand up against so many others. And so, in some cases, there's so many extremist types, religious, political, and otherwise. But that's always kind of gone on, hasn't it, in ways? Always infighting churches, religions, down to political fights and viewpoints, and then some are extreme, topsy-turvy. Some are extremely wanting to please or extremely wanting to push points, or so one of those odd things about sitting outside a situation. I have nice discussions with some people. We discuss food, nutrition in some cases, sometimes religious topics, or political, depending if it's not too heavy, or philosophical, or books of literature and the nature, and the whys and wherefores. The topics among some more educated, even people driving taxis take time to read, Even there's a very well-educated people doing just varying jobs. Some people might drive a taxi, even be highly educated because they like it. For instance, a friend of mine, a previous taxi driver, very well-educated very well-educated man, and easy to talk to, educated, as many are in some cases, but many aren't. So you tend to avoid some. Some are too aggressive and forceful in speech, and so you tend to ask those people to step up and not talk to you again. And just among things, or too extremist in viewpoints, too idiotic, too backward, too redneck, too, just in cases, less advanced. Some are, in cases, chauvinistic, so you play this up or play that up. Some are against gays, so you play that up. Some are against this, so you play that up. Just rural backwater types of in a way lower social education standing than some of larger cities and populations. Even you run across some bastards even among some other situations in some cities. But, not everybody's likable. Nor could they be. My viewpoints aren't shallow. I'm fairly deep. I'm fairly intellectually based. No matter other situations, I'm fairly intelligent. And I'm fairly mellow, fairly polite, fairly calm. I don't mock people. Usually, I laugh at stupidity. Some things are just ironic, strange, odd. Just among things. I'm not haughty. I'm not a smart ass. I'm not a know-it-all. I'm smart. Take time for heavy education. Among many cultures, many colors, many people. Some bright intellectual people among every situation. But among many people, there's just some dumb. And that's the one thing I don't like. As far as education goes, it's up to a point, free in places. Quite often, and so even women have to struggle in some places for education, depending on the country. There's news instances on that going on too, just among things. It's a chauvinist instance. Just a bad vibe. Ain't peaceful times. Kind of almost was, just in brief. More peaceful era, at least for a couple decades, seemed to be. And things went crappy. Hadn't they? Just gone askew. Just, what a bad scenes. Anyway. Huh. Different crap I typically kind of stay out of. Usually. Somebody invades my place, I'm going to tell them to get out. Especially if they, I'm this type of white supremacist, I'm that one. I'm like, I don't care if you're trying to sell my roommate, this guy living in my place, fucking freeloading and shit, a tattoo gun. I don't like that shit. There's the door. See ya. But we do this and we do that, and you're white, and I don't care what you think I am, bud. Get the fuck out of my house. Or people extremists on this or extremists on that, or fucking things up, or doing dope, or doing this or doing that. Personally, whatever's image is probably a bit fictionalized as far as situations with me, at least to some extent. I'm fairly mellow, fairly calm under any circumstance. Can logically say, well, if law enforcement needs to be involved, they can be, as well as courts and other situations. No matter what's arranged in some cases, possibly as a manipulation or an in or a spy or God knows what happens where in some cases. Like idiots rolling the planet, and in some cases really false claims. And fights back and forth. Just light on the company of peoples and in some cases guards. So people tend to raid some places or attack some households, or when they see a lightning of the instance, possibly as a let into maybe remove somebody, possibly either of who knows, either protective instance or just to either get them out of the way, or as maybe a protective instance, lightening up guards, thinning out people as a means to, as a chink in the armor to let people in, possibly as a way to manipulate them or use them or to get somebody out, like myself in some cases, in and out of some crowds. Or in and out of in and around some situations. Their deaths faked in some cases, if not literal. Some people just disappeared off the planet. Well, appeared to. I'd be sitting around somewhere just observing. In a manner, I am as well. But I've been involved in different company throughout different situations, and probably would have to be. Yeah, blood ties. Weird, huh? Even cross countries, let alone cross cultures. Blood ties. Isn't that weird? Who married who did what, who did what, when and where. Cross, cultural lines, cross country lines, just depending on where anything was going on and what blood relation, what blood tie was where. I had to be involved in some cases versus not. No matter what the shit was going on, there was a bunch of whacked out crap. It's memory suits. It's a bunch of whacked out. There's just a bunch of weirdos. Of course, some people are possibly deliberately out of the way in some cases. Letting some people run rampant. And they're probably running afoul of each other, like as not. Differing people trying to advantage some situations. When a keep, for instance, when a keep or place is raided, and you only got a few people. You move them out, siege the outside. You maneuver your people out of a situation where you're thin, right? And you siege the intruders from the outside in some ways, in some capacities, as the enemies are now in a prison situation, as in they're contained. You get a lot of enemy factions in a situation. What do? You want them in one spot, right? As a means of control, as a means of manipulation, or as a means of siege. It's a fairly well-known tactic in some cases to let the enemy into a situation. Meanwhile, you take your own people out and you siege them from the outside perspective. It's a military tacticking of a type. As in the area they think they're going to be the freest, you now make their prison. Be it through media, be it through being there, being it through kept on a certain spot or kept in a certain area, as well others are free to roam about. They might have captured a house But what if it's basically empty? What if a house is empty? People raid it. Plenty of hidden ways in. Plenty of hidden ways out. Open or hidden or back doors or front doors. You only got a few people in a situation. You move your people out. Seats from the outside. Be it through news and media, as imposters go in some cases. As I think was a plan a long way back, it might have gone afoul. But as far as the imposters go, you siege them from the outside because you have plenty of allies on the outskirts, but not always internally. Especially when they begin to raid. Drinking people's wine, raiding people's liquors, raiding this, raiding that. Well, some people are just either deceased or just gone. And nobody can make which way anybody else, including me. Strangely, oddly, can't make heads or tails of me. I'm frightened and angry and everything else in some cases. Meanwhile, I'm calm, I'm collected, just chatting. Or just a bit cold, getting people off my case. As I would happen to be, very cold to some. Not totally angry, but just cold. Not kind. Only kind to some people. As a majority of people go high and low, I'm just a nice person generally. But to people seeking their own advantage an age back, be it via other people, other situations, children included, I don't happen to like them much at all. But I can be very polite to an enemy in an enemy situation. Sitting on enemy ground, whether they like it or not. In an enemy household, an enemy court, an enemy land. Surrounded by enemies rather than friends in some cases. Or friends of others. And family of others. Some people tended to raid some houses. And were locked in a fashion. Locked in place. Kept in place. Held in place. Meanwhile, I'm not exactly hostage. Some claimed it. I'm free to go goddamn about as I please. In this country and others. Openly, sometimes walking right into some situations. And walking right the fuck out, going, who are these? Who are these? Who are you? In this house. Or any other. As robbers go, that's an interesting thing. Smash and grab people, thieves. Really interesting things. Some people just think they can walk right into a place and suddenly own everything. It's been a situation in some cases I've noticed. Walk right in, take control. With no damn right. Others do. But criminals do abound. But so do guards. So do street guards. So do little mix-ups and a whole mess of shit. No matter what intention or where. Isn't life odd? Ain't that just strange? Who might be whom? In a capacity. Some of you just won't find out. As I go, it depends on what name applied, and in some cases what language spake in. As in the names typically coincide, just the version tends to differ depending on the language. It typically revolves around the same name I issued when young. I told the whole populace, as pretty much everybody mostly happened to be bilingual, just preferred different languages over another, in some cases. Versus some idiots rolling around possibly tightly being controlled. Now y'all have a good day now. God's peace.